Hi everyone, it's Simon Keeling here on Friday the 11th of April. Thanks again for watching. It's weatherweb.net and goodness me, a real conundrum on the way today. Firstly, deciding how cool it's going to get next week, and then what happens beyond. We're getting so many conflicting signals from the models at the moment. So please do forgive me for kind of rambling on through this forecast, but I just want to show you what we're looking at the moment. And what I want to do first of all is just focus on the period at the end of next week. So this is Friday the 18th going into the 19th. So this is the charts for midnight, so 0001 hours next Saturday. And first of all, kicking off with the GEM. So this is the Canadian, and we've got a trough out towards the west there. Look, we've got that building ridge here. It's the colours, by the way, that I'm looking at underneath here, which is the 500 millibar float, about 18,000 feet. See this? So you see this ridge across the country, high pressure, centred here off towards the east. Now, just compare that chart with the ECMWF for the same time, and ECMWF does have a trough of sorts out here in the Atlantic, but it tries to get a ridge of sorts in here as well. So no exact evidence of high pressure at the surface. It's kind of there, but not really. We've got low pressure centred out here. So the ECMWF kind of sees this jet then flowing across the north of Scotland, that ridge down to the south, low pressure out here in Eastern Europe. And the trick really of forecasting over the next few days, well, the next couple of weeks, is what happens to this trough across eastern parts of Europe. So that's the ECMWF operational for the same time. Now, if we look at the ECMWF ensemble, again for exactly the same time, look at this. It actually puts a ridge in the Atlantic. It puts a trough much further west into Europe through the UK and makes these western parts of Europe far more unsettled, low pressure in here. And yes, still got the jet blowing through here, but it makes far more of the trough, indicating more unsettled conditions than shown on the operational there. And the GFS ensemble looks like this for the same period. Look, ridge out in the Atlantic, deep trough down through Europe, low pressure in here, jet stream flowing over the top there in Scotland. So they're all okay with where the jet stream is. It's where this trough is. Remember, we've got the Canadian, which got it out here. We've got the ECMWF, which really didn't make much of it at all. We've got the ECMWF and the ensemble and the GFS ensembles both putting the trough in here. So big discrepancy between the two. And looking at the long ranges, the ECMWF 30-day, which I can't show you on here, but the ECMWF 30-day has a huge trough here, down through central parts of Europe, down through the UK, into the Mediterranean, lasting through the end of April, into the beginning part of May. Now, generally, the ECMWF is a model of choice when we look at medium range forecasting. But if I just show you the performance of the various models. Now, I know this graph can look quite confusing, but this is the performance, the verification of the 10-day predictions from the various different models. And on here we've got the GFS in black, ECM in red, Canadian there in green, and a couple of other models on there as well. And what to notice on here is the black line. First of all, we're going to take the period from the 1st of April. So these are the 10-day forecasts, how they've been performing from 1st of April time. And you notice the GFS had a really bad time of it early on in the month, but it's actually picked up now, and things have become better here. The red is the ECMWF, and you notice how that had a pretty bad start to the month as well, and really it hasn't picked up as such. The Canadian actually has been performing rather well. The Canadian, you see, was the first to get this idea of the ridge building in and of the idea of troughs trying to get into Europe. So actually the Canadian performing quite well. If you look at the overall scores for the last month, the ECMWF comes out best at 0.64, the Canadian's next at 0.36, and the GFS is at 0.22. So although it's had a bit of a blip recently, ECMWF still performs better than the others. But recently you can see how the GFS really has outperformed the ECMWF again. So we're not getting any help really on the recent verification to tell us which models to lean into, which model to trust the most, because they're giving us such conflicting signals here. You know, that set with the trough is basically saying cold and really unsettled across the UK and Western Europe in 10 days' time, whereas the others are saying, well, actually, looks as if it should be quite mild and not bad, with the trough staying across eastern parts of Europe. Now, let's see if we can get a little bit of help from the long ranges, because the Japanese models are out today. This is the week 1 forecast. So this is running up to the close of play next Thursday. So I need to work out the dates. Where are we in? So next Thursday is the 17th. So this is taking us up to the 17th of April. Got to turn your head around for this one. UK is underneath there, look, and you can just see there as well, look, Spain sticking out, and Portugal there, just to give you a bit of a feel as to where we are on these charts. Now, in week 1, what this is doing is, there's the jet across the north, look, it really does like the idea of that ridge building across the UK and western parts of Europe, high pressure in here during the coming week, which is basically what we're expecting to see. Now, if we then take a look at week 2, so this is the week 2 forecast, again from the Japanese, this takes us forwards from next Friday, so from the 18th through to the 25th of April. And what this one has got, again, twist your head around, look, it makes far more of the trough in the Atlantic and through the UK, strengthens the jet through there as well, builds the heights down across Spain and central parts of Europe. But look, it has this trough out here across the east of the Mediterranean over in Eastern Europe. So the overall flow pattern here that it's trying to bring is something like that. Okay, so it's trying to put the trough in here, it's trying to put the trough in here, and it's trying to build the ridge in between during this period. So it's saying, look, conditions will break down across the UK, will become cooler and more unsettled, particularly as the week progresses, but across much of Western Europe it looks as if things should be fine. What does it then do? Well, this is the forecast for week 3 and 4, and this is of interest to me because this runs from the 26th of April and then takes us right the way forwards to the 10th of May. So it's a 2-week period, you've got to bear that in mind. But look what it does. It puts trough down across the central Mediterranean and across Iberia, builds a ridge through the British Isles, and has this trough out in the Atlantic with low pressure in here. So it tries to bring higher than normal pressure through the British Isles. Not a huge area of high pressure, but certainly one that we would note. And high pressure would probably be somewhere in here. So further north than it should be of the Azores, and we'd probably find a ridge extending something like that through the British Isles during this period. So what it's trying to do is to get us back into fair conditions across the country during that early part of May, whilst making much of Central Europe really quite cold and unsettled during that period. So that's the thoughts on the Japanese, and actually this is very, very similar to the ECMWF 30-day, which tries exactly this. It has the trough out here at first, and then what it tries to do is to pull it back eastwards during the 30-day period into central and into southern parts of Europe, but keeps the UK under that area of high pressure. So we got 2 major models there, 2 major atmospheric models, long ranges, keeping in check. Now, CFS looks like this. Week 1, well, higher than normal heights here. Week 2, look, pretty well much the same idea going on there with the CFS. It wants to have higher than normal heights in here and affecting much of the west of Europe. Into week 2, into week 3, so from the 24th of April through to the 30th of April. Again, look, it has the ridge across the Atlantic, no sign of a trough on there. And into week 4, again, very similar sort of picture, look. Starting to hint at a trough or something, trying to get into the Atlantic here, but still has the ridge here, puts a trough, yeah, sees something across Eastern Europe, but basically keeps pressure high here across much of the UK. Now, I guess you could argue that that looks very similar in its pattern shape with the idea of the high pressure there to that one from the Japanese. You know, the idea of the higher pressure being here, the higher than normal heights across the UK, and the dry conditions through the UK. So there are some similarities there, but it certainly isn't seeing the trough here across the central parts of the Mediterranean. So there's a big difference between the two models set in there. CFS then does this with the MJO as well. It's very, very consistent in its recent runs. Each one of these colours represents a run stretching back further in time, and you can see how, look, they have just stayed so similar, coming right the way through the phases from 4 through 5 through 6 through 7 through 8, but remarkable as to how similar those phases have stayed. So it does indicate this idea of Central and Eastern Europe becoming cooler, but staying generally fair across the British Isles, with dry conditions around for many, although a cooler snap coming through next week. The ridge just trying to consistently build back in. So you see a real quandary there, a real conundrum as to what happens, as to how things shape up over the next few weeks. I think I'm going to go with the idea of this cool weather middle of next week, then the ridge trying to get back in, and perhaps staying in this drier, milder conditions through into the early parts of May. But I don't think the signs are particularly good for central and southern parts of Europe, particularly Central Europe and the central Mediterranean. I think it could be going very wet and much cooler there. Need to keep an eye on things. ECMWF just going way over the top on it, and the GFS operational seems to be as well. But I think the overall stories are there. Right, I told you it would be a bit of a rambling one, didn't I? And it certainly was. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget, we're kept free of charge because of you coming back and using the site and using the various different adverts around the screen. I should just say to you, all the charts that I've shown you on here, look, are available from the website. If you go to weatherweb.net, go to the home page there, and then click on your options at the top here. Click on charts. ECMWF comes up first of all, and if you click on CFS here and then scroll down the page, click on CFS monthly, you can get a lot of information there. And also on the CFS front as well, if we just go back into the usual CFS, you can get here weekly rainfall predictions. So it shows you predictions of rainfall for the coming weeks. That one might be useful for you as well. Right, I'll definitely leave you to it now, but thanks again for watching, and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.